You've all heard this a dozen times, so I'll keep it brief. Loving Christian father, Scott Coffin had a passion for making games, although none of them were able to hit it big. After the very lackluster reception of Chipper & Sons Limerico, Scott was at a loss. As a last-ditch effort, Scott made one final game, Five Nights at Freddy's. Unless you've been in a 9-year-long coma and you're just now waking up, you know this wasn't the case. The FNaF franchise went on to be one of the most impactful horror games of all time, and its influence is still felt to this very day. In this video, I'll go through my thoughts on FNaF 1 to the best of my ability. And hey, if this goes well, I'll review the other games as well. You take on the job of Freddy Fazbear's new nighttime security guard. As the night goes on, you notice the animatronic characters moving around the building and slowly making their way to your office.
Now that might sound bad, I know.
But lucky for you, the previous night guard left some messages that will aid you in your survival. Phone Guy essentially acts as your tutorial for the game, all the while telling you about observations or theories he has about the place. But things go much deeper than they seem. Unfortunately, on night 4, the animatronics overwhelm Phone Guy and kill him. We can't let our brave hero die in vain, so you push through the remaining nights and claim our incredibly underwhelming paycheck. Salutes to you, Phone Guy. We'll never forget you. The finer details of this story, being as ambiguous as they are, leave room for you to draw your own conclusions as you play the game. Do the murderous tendencies of these bots lie in their programming, or is it something more gruesome? Phone Guy is brilliant, both as a way to move the story forward and as a character. His awkward, nervous personality and humor are really endearing, and he's your only real friend through this hell. Besides him, from time to time you may encounter an Easter egg or two that clues you in on what really went down at this joint. Or, you know, you could just look at the silly poster of Freddy ripping his face apart. That's fine too. It's really no surprise that the internet went as crazy as they did over this game's story and the secrets that were hiding beneath. Through secret newspaper clippings, we find out that 5 children have gone missing at Freddy's, leading them to the back room, never to be found and presumed dead. Fazbear's had been threatened to shut down because of the conditions of the animatronics, but around the eyes and mouths, horrid smell, I think you've probably got a good idea of what's going on now. These bots weren't moving because of feral mode, nor were they evil. They were just the sad and vengeful souls of these kids possessing them. Anyway, a few years after the murders, the restaurant closes! This doesn't really fit anywhere, so I throw it in here, but Phone Guy mentions an event known as the Bite of 87 in one of his calls, where an unknown animatronic bites the frontal lobe of someone who was at the restaurant. Don't worry too much about that for now though, it's been 9 years and I don't think Scott even knows who the culprit of the bite is. The story of this game is a lot more simple compared to its sequels. It honestly works to its advantage. It's a tragic tale of these lost souls seeking revenge, and you lousily getting caught in the middle of it. I don't have too many thoughts on the story, but it works great on its own, and is a good foundation for future entries. Now that said entries do well in building upon this foundation, this might be my favorite setup out of all of these games. You have cameras to watch over the restaurant, lights to check for anything in the hallways and doors to fend off the animatronics, and survive from 12 to 6 AM to win. It almost feels a little arcadey with the nice simplicity of it all. Future games and fanworks that take inspiration from the series tend to have way too many confusing mechanics that don't add too much to the experience. Here, you have all the essentials, nothing more, nothing less. Let's quickly go over the enemies you'll be facing for the night. Bonnie will likely be the first animatronic you encounter. He'll roam the left side of the map until he finally gets to your door, at which point you'll shut it on him till he leaves. He also was graced with godlike abilities, such as being able to teleport to whatever room he wants and hover above the ground, apparently. Chica works essentially the same as Bonnie. She'll roam the right side of the map until she gets to your door. Fortunately, unlike him, she can only move to adjacent rooms. She'll also make noise once she's in the invisible to the camera kitchen, conveniently letting you know she's in there. Foxy hides away in Pirate's Cove. For the longest time, people got his mechanic completely wrong. All you need to do to keep him at bay is just looking at any of the cameras. If he's able to take his leave, he'll sprint towards your office. You have a short time in which you'll be able to close your door and shut him off. Freddy is the last animatronic you'll meet in the game, and when he starts moving, you know that real terror has just begun. With each laugh he does, you'll move on a set path on the right side of the map. You need to keep constantly watching him in order to keep him away from your office. With all of this in mind, the juggling act of these 4 can become chaotic quickly. And something I've yet to mention, in order for the player to not just close all the doors and do nothing to win, there's a battery meter that goes down with each action you take. If you run out of power, Freddy gives you a visit in the dark.
Oh no! No, 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 no! Oh, no, 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 no! Hi! Oh, God damn it! How are you doing? Did I make it?
What I love most about the gameplay is how each of these characters serve a purpose and act in their own special way, which also almost gives them a personality in a way. Moments like when you're low on power, Chica and Bonnie at your door at the same time, just hoping for it to turn to 6 AM or filling, and things like that make the experience memorable. Now, I've played this game dozens of times and I have formed some opinions over the gameplay. You probably won't face these problems on your first or even second playthrough, but they definitely are things that can sour things a little bit. Firstly, the nights are way too long. The basic nature of this game doesn't mesh well with the 9-minute long nights. Future games definitely improve upon this a lot, and I feel like 6 minutes is the sweet spot for a FNaF game. Because of the length, early nights are rather boring to sit through, only really picking up on night 5, maybe 4. I won't go over the sound design in this video since I don't want to make this too long and I'm not nearly qualified enough to go in depth about it. But I will say that the great ambiance and atmosphere does remedy how long the nights are to a certain extent, especially on your first playthrough. Remember how I mentioned how Foxy's mechanics were largely misinterpreted for a long time and it's a lot more simple than it seems? Yeah, this game could be cheesed really easily. You can beat Night 6 just by looking at the show stage every 5 seconds, with stalling Foxy and Freddy, making him not move whatsoever, and only leaving Bonnie and Chica to be dealt with occasionally. This also brings up another issue. 99% of the cameras are pretty much useless. You can easily beat the game by sitting on one single camera. It's honestly a shame as all the camera renders in this game are terrific. I won't talk about custom night since I've never beaten it, nor do I really care enough to devote that much time to learning how to beat it, but it's a very cool addition to the game, despite it also being able to be easily exploited from what I've seen. All in all, I love playing this game despite the few problems I've had with it. I always like just going in for a round or two whenever I'm in the mood for some FNaF. Clearly it did something right considering how most of the fan games at the time were mostly just reskins of the game. So yeah, I think that should be about it for the gameplay. Alright. Remember when I mentioned how you can find some rare Easter eggs in this game? They're all really cool and interesting in their own ways, but one is unlike the rest. If you get lucky enough and check Cam 2B, there's a chance of a slumped over and lifeless animatronic spawning in your office, known as Yellow Bear, and later dubbed as Golden Freddy by Markiplier, causing it to become his official name. Yes, really. Golden Freddy straight up gives creepypasta character vibes with how out of place he feels here. He appears in your office and after a few seconds, jump scares you, making the game crash. Another way to encounter Golden Freddy is to punch in 1987 in the custom-made difficulty selection, causing you to automatically get jump scared by him once you enter the night. But wait, Charlie, 1987? Like, the bite of 87? Wouldn't it clearly mean that Golden Freddy did it? I told you not to worry about that. There's a lot more that I could have talked about here, but this should do it for now. This is my first ever full-blown review of something, so I'm sure the structure of these are gonna improve the more I do them. But I digress. Five Nights at Freddy's, even after all this time, holds up really well and has become a cult classic. Obviously it doesn't go without its flaws, but I can usually look past those. It's honestly really inspiring how Scott Goffin was able to make one of the most successful gaming franchises ever all by himself, and after how much he was kicked down during his previous attempts at gaming development too. This game means a lot to me, I still love it so much. Thank you for an amazing 9 years, Scott. So, FNaF 2, am I right?